Before me, I have a container of fuel. Where did it come from? Well, there was an incident quite recently. There was some, I believe, injuries to the passenger, not so much to the pilot. The airplane was a total loss. And the pilot was asking me some Rotax questions, and I said, right off the hop, I pretty much said, okay, do you have a sample of the fuel left over? Oh yeah, I do. He says, I have a whole can of the same fuel I put in it, container. So I said, perfect, can I have a sample? He said, I'll bring you the whole container. So here it is. So I said, has it been tightly capped all the time? Yes. Has it been inside? Yes. Okay. So one thing I noticed about this container, and it's been in the shop here for a couple of days now, is that it has never puffed up or swollen up. So what do I mean by that? Well, you notice when you buy fresh fuel and you cap the container tightly, the container, of course, it swells up. Why does it do that? Well, the fuel is very volatile. It wants to combust. To me, that's a sign of really fresh, good fuel. This has not done that. This has never swelled up. Every time I look at it, it looks exactly the same. So right now I'm going to take and just pour a sample into a container, and let's have a look and see, does it look like, what does it look like just visually before we do any testing on it. Glass jar here, a nice clear one. Okay, I was listening. I didn't hear any air escaping or pressure escaping. So again, that goes with what I've seen already, because it has not, as I said, swollen up or puffed up the container at all. And let's get a sample. That's interesting, because typically the gasoline with ethanol in it, it looks more clear. This is definitely not clear. Okay, let's do some other tests with this little sample and see what we can find out. So here's my alcohol percentage tester. So let's put some liquid into it, which is just plain ordinary bottled water because it's handy. And see if I can get it filled up to the right place. So there, I don't know if you can see, I'm right on the line for water. So I'll just cap that so that if it falls over, I don't have to fill it up again. Get my fuel sample, and so with this particular tester, you fill it up right to the bottom of the neck. Right through there. Okay. And we'll cap that. Cap the sample. Now, the usual process now. Let's shake it up and blend it and see what happens. So I've agitated it quite well. So now I'm just going to let it set. So it's at the 10% line. However, what I see all through the sample, and I don't know if you notice it there as well, is typically when I see all of this water down here like this, all stuck in there, to me that means that this is already has way too much water in it. Got this container propped up on an angle, so the lowest part is right down here. And I'm going to put some paste on, just knead the paste a little bit. And I don't have a stick long enough to reach in here, so I'm just going to use the screwdriver. And there's a reasonably thin film of it on there. And let's see if any water has collected in the side of this container, or the low spot, I should say, not the side. But okay, and then we're in for 10 seconds. Try and get as close as I can. I'm kind of at an angle to the clock here, and let's find out what color is it. It's definitely yellow. So is there water in this fuel? Absolutely, there's water in this fuel, in this container. What are my conclusions from this fuel testing today? Well, the color looked a little unusual to me, but maybe that's the proprietary color of that gas station's fuel, company's fuel. So it can't go by that. Tested it, it's got 10% ethanol, and that's fine. Now, I mentioned that the sample looked a little unusual, like there was way too much water in it, and it was already starting to phase separate, or it had phase separated right on the edge probably. Now, that led me to believe, well, there's probably water in the container. Before I even tested it, I was pretty sure there'd be water in there. So when I use the fuel testing paste, of course, it goes in brown, it comes out yellow. That's the presence of water. Now, how much water is in there percentage-wise or volume-wise, I don't really know. All I know is that fuel is no good to use in your aircraft because it's all the ethanol is already saturated with water. So how do I mean that? So one of the examples that I use for that is, if we think about the ethanol, 10% ethanol will absorb some amount of water and hold it in suspension, and then it goes through the fuel system and it combusts, and that's the end of that. No big deal. So say you've got a bad gasket on your fuel cap and you get a lot of rainwater into the fuel tank. What happens then? The ethanol can only hold so much moisture, and then it becomes super saturated. So just like a cleaning sponge, it's full of water, it'll hold some water and it doesn't drip. When it's completely saturated, it drips. Though that's what you're going to see when you sample your fuel tank. If you pick up some water, even one droplet of water, that means to me that your fuel is completely saturated, and you have to take that fuel out and rinse out the fuel system, flush out the fuel system, because the gasoline could be right at the point where the ethanol is holding the max plus one drop, but it doesn't matter. If you see water in a fuel sample and you're using ethanol fuels or oxygenated fuels, that fuel is no good. Take it out and dispose of it. Flush the fuel system, as I said. So in the end, it's been very interesting to do this testing. It's testing that you can do. Solution, what's the solution? Well, one of the things that I've been thinking about recently is, so that container, just say that container just came from the gas station, and normally we would just dump it in the airplane, right? And away we go, because it's always been not a problem. Apparently it is a problem now. So I think it would be wise to get one of the water separator funnels and another gas container. And when you come with your fuel, your fresh fuel, before you dump it in the airplane, I'm thinking that it might be a good idea to put it through that funnel into another container. So what would that do in the end? Well, you know that there isn't any dirt in it because it won't let dirt go through, but it stops water. And if you have a bunch of water in your water separating funnel after you transfer it over, I'd be going back to the gas station and saying, hey, this is not right. I bought gasoline and this has got too much water in it. There's something wrong with your underground storage. Now, how the water gets into this fuel sample, I have no idea. Was there water in this container when the pilot took it to the gas station and filled it up with fuel? I don't know. Maybe. I wasn't there. Did it come out of the pump along with the gasoline? You know, super saturated, spoiled fuel in reality. Was that the case? I have no idea either. I can't comment on it. I don't know. All I know is that when I test this fuel today in that container, that's got water in it. That's all I know for sure. and it's got 10% ethanol in it. So hope that this is of assistance to somebody out there. And please make sure that you also keep communicating with your fellow pilot buddies and find out if their fiberglass fuel tank is melting. Another big issue with ethanol fuels. So thanks for tuning in today. I appreciate the time you spent with me, and we'll see you again another day, and fly safe.